Hello there, and welcome to the Midnight Scientists, your cozy corner of the universe where curiosity and calm meet under a blanket of stars. Whether you are winding down after a long day, tucked gently under your blankets with your screen casting a soft glow, or perhaps you are simply allowing your mind to float untethered towards the peaceful shores of sleep, I am so very glad you have found your way here. Tonight, we will turn our gaze upward toward the vast open sky. We are going to explore the quiet science of flight, from the near invisible flutter of a hummingbird's wings to the deep, steady hum of engines powerful enough to gently lift us toward the stars. This is the story of how life, and later our own creations, learn to rise from the ground, to hang suspended in the air, and to soar through the endless blue. Now, my only hope is that this story is just interesting enough to hold your attention, but gentle enough to let it go when you are ready. The goal, after all, is for you to drift away peacefully. But if you do find your mind still awake, captivated by the wonder of lift and thrust, well, at least you will be resting in a place of quiet wisdom. Before we begin our ascent, take a moment to notice where you are. I often wonder where in the world you might be listening from tonight. Perhaps night has just fallen where you are, or maybe the sun is preparing to rise. You can, if you feel so inclined, leave a quiet comment to say hello. It is always a joy to imagine this sleepy community stretching across all the world's time zones and continents. And if you find comfort in these gentle explorations where knowledge and calm intertwine, a soft tap on the like button or a quiet subscribe helps this channel in ways you cannot imagine. It is a small, silent gesture that supports so many hours of thoughtful research and softly whispered wonder. And finally, just a gentle reminder, while our journey tonight is filled with fascinating science, it is here only to help you relax, not to serve as medical advice. If you find sleep to be a consistent challenge, it is always best to speak with a qualified professional. This space is here to be a comfort, not a cure. All right, let's settle in now. Take a soft, slow breath in and let it go. Let's begin our gentle journey into the science of flight. Birds make flight look so wonderfully effortless. A gentle leap from a branch, a few soft flaps, and suddenly they are riding the breeze as if they were born from the air itself, which, of course, in a way, they were. But the reality of a bird's flight is a masterpiece of quiet complexity. It is the result of millions of years of evolution, a story of finely tuned mechanics and the cleverest tricks from nature's engineering department. What appears to our eyes as a graceful, weightless glide is truly a masterclass in physics, biology, and design, all working in perfect harmony. To understand how a bird flies, we must begin with its very essence, its anatomy. Birds are, in the most beautiful sense, living, breathing, flying machines. Every single part of their body, from the inside out, has been shaped over countless generations to serve one primary purpose: to remain in the air. The most obvious feature, of course, is the wing. But a bird's ability to fly is not just about having wings. It is about how those wings work in perfect concert with the rest of its delicate body. A bird's wing is built around a modified forelimb, not so different from a human arm. It has a humerus, a radius, and an ulna, familiar names if you have ever studied your own form. But in birds, these bones are elongated, reshaped, and refined to support the intricate structure of feathers and muscle, allowing them to maneuver through the air with breathtaking agility. This structure is both incredibly strong and impossibly light. This is made possible by bones that are hollow, yet reinforced with delicate internal struts, like the framework of a tiny cathedral. This means a bird can have large, sturdy wings without being weighed down by them. And then there are the feathers, each one a marvel of design. Flight feathers are asymmetrical with a strong central shaft and delicate veins that lock together with microscopic hooks like a zipper woven from air and light. These feathers can flex and twist, allowing the bird to sculpt the air around it, controlling the flow and generating lift with remarkable precision. The overall shape of the wing, known as an airfoil, is gently curved on top and flatter underneath. This elegant design helps generate lift. As air moves across the wing, it travels a little faster over the curved top surface, creating a pocket of lower pressure that gently pulls the bird upward. It is the very same principle that helps the great wings of an airplane lift off the ground. But birds do not just flap their wings randomly. There is a deep, ancient rhythm to it. During the downstroke, powerful chest muscles contract, pushing the wings down and forward to generate thrust. On the upstroke, smaller muscles help lift the wings while they partially fold, minimizing resistance. This coordinated motion allows birds to maintain their forward momentum and stay aloft, a continuous cycling dance between power and grace. In some species, this cycle happens in the blink of an eye. The hummingbird, for example, a tiny jewel of motion, beats its wings up to 80 times per second, hovering in place with astonishing control. Of course, not all birds fly in the same way. A hawk, soaring high over a field, uses its long, broad wings to ride invisible currents, conserving its energy as it patiently searches for prey below. In contrast, a tiny sparrow flits from bush to bush using quick, choppy strokes for agility in confined spaces. And some birds have made other choices. Penguins, though technically birds, have traded flight through the air for flight through the water. Their wings have evolved into powerful flippers, perfectly suited for slicing through the dense ocean currents. Ostriches and emus gave up flight entirely, opting instead for powerful legs and the freedom of running across open plains. Evolution, it seems, is always more concerned with survival than with a single style. Even among flying birds, the shape of a wing tells a story about its lifestyle. Birds with long, narrow wings, like the albatross, are built for gliding over vast open oceans. They can travel thousands of miles with barely a flap, trusting the wind to carry them. Birds with shorter, rounded wings, like pheasants, are designed for quick, explosive takeoffs and short bursts of speed, often to escape predators in dense forests. And falcons, the sprinters of the sky, have pointed wings that allow for high-speed dives, reaching over 200 miles per hour as they descend upon their prey. The bird's tail is more than just decorative. It acts as a rudder, helping with balance, steering, and braking. When landing, many birds spread their tails wide, like a fan, to increase drag and slow down for a gentle touchdown. But even the most beautifully designed wings would be useless without the right power source. Birds have enormous breast muscles, which can make up a significant portion of their body weight. These muscles attach to a large, keeled sternum, a unique feature that provides a broad surface for muscle attachment, enhancing the strength of each downstroke. Their internal systems are also built for this high-energy lifestyle. Birds have incredibly efficient respiratory systems. Unlike mammals, they use a unidirectional airflow system with air sacs that keep fresh oxygen moving in a continuous loop. Their hearts are proportionally larger, and their metabolic rates are sky-high, everything geared toward fueling the demanding act of flight. From their light skeletons to their aerodynamic feathers, from their powerful muscles to their efficient breathing, every detail has evolved to serve a purpose in the air. It is not magic, it is science. But sometimes, when you see a gull tracing lazy loops over the waves, or a swallow diving through the summer air like a living arrow, it feels like the closest thing to magic that nature has ever invented. Long before the first bird took to the air, another group of creatures had already mastered the skies. Insects were the first pioneers of flight on Earth. They were buzzing through prehistoric air long before the dinosaurs, experimenting with flight in all its strange and miniature glory. And their flight is wonderfully strange, so unusual, in fact, that when scientists first tried to model it using the principles of classical aerodynamics, the mathematics simply did not add up. According to those early equations, some of these tiny creatures shouldn't be able to fly at all. But fly they do, beautifully, erratically, and sometimes with the floating elegance of a dream. Take the humble bumblebee. For years, a myth circulated that its flight was physically impossible. This isn't quite true, of course. It just doesn't follow the same rules as airplanes or even birds. Bumblebees don't rely on a smooth, steady flow of air over their wings. Instead, they beat their wings with incredible rapidity, creating unsteady vortices, tiny swirling currents of air that generate lift in ways we are only just beginning to fully understand. It is a different kind of grace, one born of vibration and energy. One of the key differences between birds and insects lies in how their wings are controlled. Birds flap using muscles that move their entire limb. Many insects, on the other hand, flap their wings by vibrating their thorax, the middle segment of their body. Their wings are attached indirectly, and it is this method of muscle control that allows some species to flap at astonishing speeds. A common housefly can beat its wings around 200 times every single second, all while maintaining stable flight and dodging obstacles with near instantaneous reflexes. Many insects also have multiple pairs of wings. The dragonfly, a living jewel of the air, has two pairs that can operate independently. This grants them a stunning degree of control. They can hover, glide, drift sideways, and even fly backward, as if rewinding time. Their wings are not synchronized like a bird's. They are more like two sets of silent oars paddling through the currents of the air with absolute precision. Watching a dragonfly maneuver is like watching a helicopter with a doctorate in dance. Butterflies offer a different case entirely. Their flight appears almost clumsy, a gentle, fluttering dance. But that fluttering has a purpose. The irregular wing beats make their path through the air unpredictable, making it harder for predators to track them. Butterflies also use their large, broad wings to absorb sunlight, warming their bodies to the perfect temperature before taking flight. For them, flight is not just travel, it is a vital part of their thermoregulation. Then there are the moths, the night shift of the insect aviation world. Some moths, like the hawk moth, are surprisingly powerful flyers. The hummingbird hawk moth is so agile and precise that it is often mistaken for an actual hummingbird, as it hovers before a flower, sipping nectar with its long, coiled tongue, all while maintaining rock-steady mid-air control. One of the reasons insects can perform such aerial acrobatics is their size. At such a small scale, air behaves differently. It feels thicker, stickier, more like moving through syrup than the thin, breezy air we're used to. This means insects rely on what is known as unsteady aerodynamics, where the rapid motion of the wing creates complex patterns of air that generate immense lift. Insects also exploit something called delayed stall. When a bird or a plane tilts its wing too far, airflow separates and lift is lost. But insects flap their wings so quickly that the airflow doesn't have time to separate in the usual way. Instead, a vortex forms along the leading edge of the wing, clinging to it and pulling the insect upward. It is like surfing on your own personal whirlpool. Despite their mechanical genius, insect wings are astonishingly delicate, made of a thin membrane supported by a network of veins, more like stained glass than aircraft components. Yet these wings can endure thousands upon thousands of flaps. The variety in insect wings is dazzling. Some are short and stubby, others long and ribbon-like. Some shimmer with iridescence, while others are nearly invisible in motion. They dazzle, confuse, and occasionally, they simply fill us with wonder. And then there are the mayflies, whose adult life is so fleeting they barely have a chance to use their wings at all. Some species live for less than a day in their winged form. Yet they still take to the skies, driven by instinct. Their brief flights are a quiet reminder that even the most temporary moments in nature can be filled with purpose and grace. While the physics may seem chaotic, it is rooted in biological innovation. A fruit fly can change direction in less than 1/100th of a second, faster than we can blink. In their fluttering, zipping, hovering dance, there is a kind of miniature marvel that makes the night air feel just a little more alive. When we imagine creatures of flight, our minds often drift to birds and insects. But the world of mammals, ever resourceful, has found its own quiet ways into the sky. While they may not have feathers or iridescent wings, they have evolved some truly remarkable tools for becoming airborne. Among them, bats are the true masters of powered flight. And others, like the gentle flying squirrel and the sugar glider, have chosen a different path, learning to glide from tree to tree, using skin stretched like a living parachute. The night sky, it seems, is not exclusive to the feathered or the six-legged. Some mammals have claimed a slice of it for themselves. Let's begin with the bats, for they are not just gliders pretending to fly, they are the real deal. Bats are the only mammals capable of true, sustained flight. That is not a bit of poetry, it is a biological fact. They flap their wings, generate lift, and propel themselves through the air just as a bird does, but with a structure that is entirely their own. Where a bird's wing is a modified arm adorned with feathers, a bat's wing is more like an incredibly long and graceful hand, veiled in a soft, dark membrane. This wing membrane, called the patagium, stretches from the elongated fingers of their forelimbs all the way down to their hind legs, and sometimes even to their tail. If you could watch a bat's wing move in slow motion, it would seem less like a bird's rigid flap and more like a silken scarf dancing in the wind. This flexible design gives bats a level of flight control that is astonishingly advanced. They can bank sharply, hover in place, and even drift backward. The skin of the patagium is filled with tiny sensory receptors that respond to the flow and tension of the air, giving the bat immediate, constant feedback about its position and speed. It is like flying with touch-sensitive gloves that are also a part of your own skeleton. Bat species vary widely in their size and style of flight. The tiny bumblebee bat, which weighs less than a coin, flits through the air with quick, delicate wing beats. At the other end of the spectrum are the flying foxes or fruit bats with wingspans that can stretch over 5 feet. These larger bats tend to glide more than flap, using long, slow wing beats to cruise through the forest in search of sweet fruit or nectar. Bats are also the champions of navigating the night. Since most species fly in complete darkness, they rely on a remarkable ability called echolocation to perceive their surroundings. By emitting high-frequency calls far beyond our range of hearing and listening to the echoes that bounce off nearby objects, bats can build a detailed mental map of their environment in real time. It is a way of seeing with sound. It is not just for avoiding trees or catching insects, it is also essential for landing softly on ceilings, for locating their roosts, and for finding one another in the vast darkness. Some species have perfected this ability to a degree that is almost unbelievable, able to detect objects as fine as a single human hair in the pitch black. These gentle creatures are essential pollinators, pest controllers, and seed spreaders in many ecosystems. Without bats, tropical forests would lose some of their most dedicated gardeners, and warm summer evenings would be noticeably less peaceful. While bats took the path of powered flight, other mammals decided that gliding was a quieter, more elegant solution. Gliders do not flap. They simply launch themselves into the air, spread their limbs, and let gravity and the currents of the wind do the work. And if you have ever been lucky enough to see a flying squirrel drift from one tree to another under the moonlight, you will know that it is a moment of pure, silent magic. Gliding mammals look more like professional parachutists than reluctant leapers. Flying squirrels have a skin membrane, also called a patagium, that stretches between their wrists and ankles. When they leap into the air, they spread their limbs wide, creating a soft, square sail to catch the wind. They steer with tiny, subtle shifts of their legs or their large, fluffy tail. It is not flight in the powered sense, but it allows them to travel surprisingly long distances, sometimes over 100 feet, with a minimal loss of altitude. Their tail acts as a rudder in midair, helping to stabilize their glide and control their landing. It is not as fast or as flexible as a bat's flight, but for crossing gaps in the forest canopy, it is incredibly effective. Sugar gliders, which come from Australia and nearby regions, follow a similar pattern. These small, wide-eyed marsupials get their name from their love of sweet things and their gliding prowess. They can launch from high branches, spread their limbs, and silently coast across open spaces to reach another tree, using their long tail as a rudder to fine-tune their glide path with surprising precision. Together, bats and gliding mammals represent two fascinating solutions to the same challenge: how to move through the air. One uses power and propulsion, the other uses grace and gravity. But both demonstrate that flight, in its many forms, is a possibility that nature keeps rediscovering, tweaking, and perfecting in different shapes and sizes. When night falls and the forests darken, these creatures take to the skies, silent, swift, and often unseen. Their movements are a testament to the beautiful diversity of flight. Whether flapping through the darkness or gliding like a whisper on the wind, they remind us that the sky is open to more than one kind of traveler. Flying may look like magic, but it is truly a clever and beautiful balancing act, a quiet negotiation between four invisible forces. These forces are always present, always in a gentle conversation with one another. Their names are lift, thrust, drag, and gravity. Together, they create the delicate harmony that allows a bird to soar, a great plane to cruise through the upper atmosphere, and a tiny bee to buzz through a garden without simply tumbling from the sky. Understanding how these forces work does not require a mind for complex physics. It only asks for a little bit of quiet curiosity, a willingness to imagine the air around you not as emptiness, but as something alive, something with shape and pressure and gentle movement. Let us begin with gravity. It is the most familiar of the four forces. It is the constant, gentle pull of the earth, the force that keeps your feet on the ground and holds the oceans in their beds. Gravity is always there, a quiet, persistent anchor. For anything to fly, it must find a way to answer this downward pull. And that is where lift comes in. Lift is the upward force, the gentle whisper that counteracts gravity and keeps a flying object suspended in the air. It is generated by the movement of air over a wing. The shape of a wing, gently curved on top and flatter underneath, is known as an airfoil. As the air moves across this shape, it travels a little faster over the curved top surface and a little slower underneath. This small difference in speed creates a difference in pressure. The air pressure on top becomes lower and the pressure underneath becomes higher. And this difference results in a gentle upward push. That is lift. It's a bit like the feeling of holding your hand out the window of a slowly moving car. If you tilt your hand just so, you can feel the air gently pushing it upward. Your hand, for a moment, becomes a small wing, having a quiet conversation with the air. Birds, insects, and airplanes all rely on this very same simple principle. Next in our quiet dance is thrust. This is the forward force that propels a flying object through the air, allowing the wings to meet the wind in the first place. Birds create thrust by the gentle push of their flapping wings. Airplanes use the deep hum of engines or the spin of propellers. Even the tiniest insect, in its buzzing flight, is generating thrust with each delicate wing beat. Thrust keeps things moving, and that forward motion is what allows the wings to create lift. But nothing moves through the air without feeling its presence. And this brings us to our fourth force, drag. Drag is the gentle resistance of the air, the force that pushes back against motion. It is caused by the air itself as it touches and flows over the surface of a moving object. Think of drag as the whisper of the wind against your face as you walk. In flight, drag pulls backward while thrust pushes forward. It is a constant, soft tug of war. And so, we have our four dancers. Lift, pushing up. Gravity, pulling down. Thrust, pushing forward. And drag, pulling back. For a flight to be smooth and steady, these four forces must be in perfect balance. When lift is equal to gravity and thrust is equal to drag, you have a serene, level flight. If lift becomes a little greater than gravity, the aircraft or bird will gently climb. If gravity wins the conversation, it will softly descend. If thrust overtakes drag, it accelerates. And if drag gets the upper hand, it slows down. Flying, in its purest form, is simply the art of managing this continuous, peaceful relationship between these four invisible players. A bird adjusts the angle of its wings. A pilot adjusts the power of the engines. Every movement is about shifting this delicate balance to suit the moment. It is a triumph of physics and engineering, yes, but also of evolution. It is a continuous negotiation made possible by the quiet, invisible push and pull of the air. The world may seem still from a bird's eye view, but the air is alive with these forces, all working in harmony to keep things aloft. Understanding them doesn't take away the wonder of flight. If anything, it adds to it. Because once you know what is truly happening up there, how every flap, every tilt, and every curve is shaping the air, you can't help but feel a little awed by it all. Flying is not about defying gravity, it is about dancing with it, listening to the air, and trusting it to hold you up. Now let us drift for a moment into one of nature's most elegant solutions to flight, gliding. It is not quite flying in the powered sense. There are no engines humming, no wings flapping furiously. It is flight's quieter, more thoughtful cousin. It is the art of slipping through the air with minimal fuss, relying on gravity, the wind, and the well-shaped body to move forward. At its very core, gliding is a form of controlled falling. Gravity is always there, pulling things down, but a glider has learned to use that pull to its advantage. Rather than tumbling straight to the ground, a glider tilts itself into the air, trading a little bit of vertical descent for a great deal of horizontal travel. It is like coasting down a long, gentle, invisible hill. The shallower the angle, the farther it can go. And with the right conditions, a glider can stay airborne for hours, for hundreds of miles, without burning a single drop of fuel. Birds, of course, are some of the most skilled gliders in the animal kingdom. Think of the albatross, with wingspans that can stretch over 11 feet. These magnificent seabirds are the undisputed champions of long-distance gliding. They spend most of their lives soaring over the open ocean, harnessing the subtle differences in wind speed near the water surface to gain energy, covering thousands of miles without seeming to try at all. Other birds, like vultures and hawks, are masters of thermal gliding. Thermals are invisible columns of rising warm air that form when sunlight gently heats the ground. These birds can feel these invisible updrafts, and they will circle gracefully within them, gaining altitude without a single flap of their wings. Once they are high enough, they can glide for miles, scanning the world below, suspended between the earth and the sky on a soft pillar of warm air. And it is not just the specialists who glide. Many birds use it to conserve energy. A well-timed glide can provide a moment of rest during a long journey, or a silent, stealthy approach to a branch. It is not always about going far. Sometimes it is simply about moving efficiently and peacefully. And as we know, gliding is not limited to birds. The flying squirrel launches from a high branch, stretches its limbs, and drifts through the forest canopy like a soft brown leaf. Clever adjustments of its body and tail allow it to steer, slow its descent, and land with remarkable accuracy. It does not just fall, it steers, pivots, and fine-tunes its path, a tiny, living parachute. Even some reptiles and amphibians have learned this quiet art. Certain lizards can spread their ribs to create makeshift wings, gliding from tree to tree. And some tropical frogs have evolved webbing between their toes that allow them to catch the air as they leap, turning a simple jump into a long, floating descent. Humans, too, have long been fascinated by the silent dream of gliding. Modern gliders, or sailplanes, are sleek, high-performance machines. They have long, slender wings designed to maximize lift and minimize drag. A pilot is towed into the air and then released to begin a silent search for rising air currents. With no engine to drown out the experience, flying a sailplane is often described as the closest a person can come to soaring like a bird. It is silent, it is smooth, and it requires a constant, quiet awareness of the invisible structures in the sky. A glider pilot reads the landscape below the way a sailor reads the water. They look for sunlit fields that might generate thermals, for hills that deflect the wind upward, or for soft, puffy clouds that mark the tops of rising air columns. It is a mix of science and intuition, of calculation and feeling. Hang gliders and paragliders offer another form of this freedom. Launching from a mountaintop or a cliff, the pilot catches the wind and is suddenly floating, not falling, carried along by the invisible rivers of air that swirl and flow all around us. While gliding may lack the drama of powerful engines, it is a marvel of quiet efficiency. It turns gravity from a foe into a friend, using descent to travel, not just to drop. What is most fascinating is how this strategy has evolved again and again across so many different forms of life. It is efficient, versatile, and often surprisingly precise. Whether it's a sailplane tracing lazy spirals against a blue sky or a flying squirrel leaping into the moonlit night, gliding reminds us that flight does not always need power. Sometimes all it takes is a clever design, a little bit of altitude, and the patience to let the air do most of the work. For most of human history, the sky was a place that belonged to others. It was a realm reserved for birds, for the clouds, and for the distant silent stars. The idea that we as humans might one day take to the sky was a thought as far-fetched as living on the moon. And yet, the desire to fly has been with us for millennia. It is a dream etched into our oldest myths and legends, a quiet yearning scribbled into the notebooks of thinkers, and a hope tested through brave, imaginative attempts. Behind every imaginative design and every learning experience was something truly inspiring, a quiet belief that flight was not just possible, but that it was a part of our destiny. One of the first great minds to give this dream a scientific shape was Leonardo da Vinci. In the late 15th century, long before the principles of aerodynamics were understood, Da Vinci sketched out elaborate flying machines in his private notebooks. There were ornithopters, machines with flapping wings inspired by the birds he so carefully studied, complete with intricate gears and pulleys. He was not trying to build a working aircraft so much as he was thinking aloud on paper, laying the intellectual and imaginative groundwork for the centuries to come. His drawings were a conversation between art, science, and a deep longing for the sky. As the centuries passed, the dream persisted. Throughout the 17th and 18th centuries, brave inventors across Europe tested various winged contraptions and gliders. One of the earliest recorded attempts came from Abbas ibn Firnas in 9th century Spain, who reportedly covered himself in feathers and glided from a tower. He managed a short flight, a brief and beautiful moment suspended in the air before returning to the earth with a hard landing. It was a courageous experiment, born of pure enthusiasm. By the late 18th century, things started to become a little more floaty. In 1783, in France, the Montgolfier brothers launched the very first hot air balloon. It was not powered flight, but it was a profound milestone. For the first time, humans were truly in the air, drifting silently above the earth in a basket suspended beneath a billowing silk balloon. The very first passengers on this ascent were a sheep, a duck, and a rooster, chosen for their calm dispositions. The balloon rose to over 1,000 feet and returned them all safely to the ground. It must have felt like pure magic. Later that same year, two men, Jean-François Pilatre de Rosier and François Laurent d'Arlanz, became the first people to fly. They floated over Paris in a hot air balloon for nearly half an hour. No engines, no flapping wings, just fire, air, and an immense sense of wonder, looking down upon the world as only birds had before. The 19th century brought new ideas and a more scientific approach to gliding. This was thanks in large part to the German aviation pioneer Otto Lilienthal. He was the first person to systematically study how wings worked, conducting over 2,000 flights with his carefully constructed gliders. Lilienthal's approach was patient and methodical. He gathered data, he experimented with wing shapes, and he helped confirm the importance of the curved airfoil shape for generating lift. His flights were a form of listening to the air, learning its secrets through quiet, personal experience. Tragically, he died in 1896 after a glider accident. But his work, his passion, and his meticulous research directly inspired the very people who would finally succeed where so many had only dreamed. From feathered suits to fiery balloons, from patient gliders to imaginative sketches, humanity's path to the sky was anything but a straight line. But it is precisely that long and winding road that makes the reality of modern flight so remarkable. Every smooth takeoff today carries the quiet echoes of centuries of dreams and of the countless people who looked up at the sky and thought, with a hopeful whisper, why not? At the turn of the 20th century, if you had asked who was going to solve the great mystery of flight, the answers would have likely involved famous inventors or wealthy scientific teams. No one would have expected that two unassuming bicycle mechanics from Dayton, Ohio, working quietly out of their modest workshop, would be the ones to finally crack one of the most stubborn puzzles in human history. But that is exactly what Orville and Wilbur Wright did. The Wright brothers were not born into privilege, and they did not have formal engineering degrees. What they did have was a deep, shared curiosity, a quiet persistence, and a natural gift for understanding how things worked. Their mechanical experience came from building printing presses and repairing bicycles, machines that require a keen understanding of balance, friction, and control. In hindsight, it was the perfect training for building an airplane. What set the Wright brothers apart was their methodical, patient, and data-driven approach. While others were still focused on building powerful engines, the Wrights believed the true challenge was not just getting off the ground, but learning how to control a machine once it was in the air. They wanted to understand how to stay up there safely and how to steer with grace and precision. To do this, they began with gliders. Between 1900 and 1902, they traveled to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, a place they chose for its steady winds, its soft sands for gentle landings, and its wide open, peaceful spaces. There, under the vast coastal sky, their early gliders taught them invaluable lessons. They learned how wings behaved in the real air, and they discovered that much of the existing aerodynamics data was simply wrong. So they returned home and built their own wind tunnel. It was a simple, handmade wooden box, but inside it, they could test dozens of miniature wind shapes, carefully recording the forces of lift and drag. For the first time, they had real, accurate numbers to base their designs on, not just guesses or theories. Their next great innovation was control. They developed a system that allowed a pilot to steer the aircraft in all three dimensions. And to control the roll of the aircraft, they invented something called wing warping, a way of gently twisting the wings in opposite directions to maintain balance and turn smoothly. It was a clever solution inspired by watching how birds twisted their wingtips to steer. Once they had a glider that could be controlled, the final piece of the puzzle was power. They needed an engine that was light and powerful, something that did not exist at the time. So, naturally, they built their own. With the help of their mechanic, Charlie Taylor, they constructed a small, lightweight engine. Their first powered aircraft, the Wright Flyer, was a delicate machine of wood, wire, and fabric. And then, on the quiet, windswept morning of December 17, 1903, with Orville at the controls, the Flyer lifted off the sand. The flight lasted for just 12 seconds and covered only 120 feet. There were only 5 witnesses. There were no cheering crowds. But in that brief, quiet moment, history was changed forever. Heavier than air, controlled, powered flight had become a reality. By the end of the day, they had made 4 flights, the longest lasting nearly a minute. The Wright brothers' story is not just about an invention. It is about how ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things through curiosity, patience, and a refusal to give up. They didn't just build an airplane. They quietly opened a door to the sky. And in their story, we find a gentle lesson. Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come not from a loud bang, but from a quiet, persistent whisper of an idea, patiently nurtured until it is ready to take flight. At first glance, an airplane might seem like a simple shape against the sky, a smooth metal tube with wings. But every curve, every angle, and every surface is there for a reason. An airplane is a carefully crafted machine built to slice through the sky with stability, speed, and a quiet grace. Let's begin with the main body, or the fuselage. This is the long central structure that holds everything together. It is where passengers rest, where cargo is stored, and where, at the very front, the pilots guide the journey. It is designed to be strong enough to handle the changes in pressure high above the Earth, yet light enough not to weigh the aircraft down. Its smooth, streamlined shape allows the air to flow over it like water over a stone. Connected to the fuselage, of course, are the wings, the true stars of the show. These are what make flight possible. As we know, the air moves over and under their gentle, curved shape, the airfoil, to generate the soft, upward push of lift. But the wings are not just simple, solid structures. They are filled with fuel tanks, structural supports, and a series of moving parts called control surfaces, which help to guide the plane through the air. Near the wingtips are the ailerons. These are small, hinged sections that move in opposite directions. When one goes up, the other goes down. This creates a gentle rolling motion, allowing the plane to lean into a turn, much like a bicycle leans into a curve. Closer to the body of the plane are the flaps. These are larger panels that extend downward and backward from the edge of the wing. They are used during takeoff and landing to increase lift at slower speeds. By changing the shape of the wing, flaps allow the aircraft to lift off the ground sooner and to land more slowly and softly. Now let's drift to the back of the plane, to the tail section. This part includes the horizontal and vertical stabilizers, which do exactly what their name suggests. They keep the plane stable and steady in the air, preventing it from pitching up and down or swinging from side to side. They act much like the feathers on an arrow, ensuring a smooth and true path. Attached to the horizontal stabilizer is the elevator. This is a movable surface that guides the nose of the plane gently up or down. Attached to the vertical stabilizer is the rudder, which helps to steer the nose left or right. All of these surfaces, the ailerons, the flaps, the elevator, and the rudder, work together in harmony. They are guided by the pilot from the quiet, focused cockpit, making small, constant adjustments to keep the flight smooth and on course. And finally, there are the engines. Whether they are jet engines that hum with a deep power or propeller engines that spin like graceful windmills, their purpose is to provide the forward thrust needed for the wings to meet the air and generate lift. An airplane is not just a collection of parts. It is a complete system, a flying ecosystem, where every piece plays a role in keeping it stable, responsive, and safe. As it gathers speed down a runway, the air begins to rush over its wings. And then, almost magically, but really thanks to physics, it lifts off the ground, a bird of aluminum and circuitry slicing through the sky with poise and with purpose. Jet engines are a wonder of controlled power. Their entire purpose is to gently draw in the air, energize it, and then release it in a way that creates a smooth, continuous forward push. They are the quiet heart of modern air travel, humming with a deep and steady rhythm. It all begins at the front of the engine with the intake. As the aircraft moves, air flows into the engine where it is met by large, spinning fan blades. These fans guide the air inward, compressing it, making it denser and warmer. This warm, compressed air then flows into the combustion chamber. Here, a fine mist of fuel is introduced, and the mixture ignites, not in an explosion, but as a continuous, glowing stream of hot, energized gas. This stream of energy wants to expand, and it is guided out through the back of the engine. As it is released, it creates a powerful, steady push forward. It is a beautiful and simple principle. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. The engine pushes a river of air backward, and in return, the airplane is gently pushed forward. All of this happens thousands of times per minute inside a casing of precision materials designed to withstand incredible temperatures. And yet, from a passenger seat, the experience is one of quiet serenity. The immense power becomes a distant hum, the background music to your journey through the clouds. Now, if you push an aircraft fast enough, you eventually reach the speed of sound. This is a special threshold, a point where the air begins to behave in new and interesting ways. To travel beyond this speed to achieve supersonic flight requires a special kind of design and power. As a plane approaches this threshold, the air in front of it can no longer move out of the way as easily. Pressure waves begin to build up. When the plane crosses that threshold, these waves are released, creating a ripple of pressure that travels through the air behind it. For those inside the aircraft, the moment is often unnoticeable. The journey simply becomes smoother, quieter, as the plane outraces its own sound. Supersonic flight is less about raw, noisy speed and more about a serene glide at the very edge of the atmosphere. The most famous supersonic passenger aircraft was the Concorde. It was a beautiful machine with long, sweeping delta wings shaped like a graceful paper dart. It could cruise at over twice the speed of sound, flying so high that you could see the gentle curve of the Earth and the deep, dark blue of the upper atmosphere. A journey on the Concorde cut transatlantic flight times in half, turning a long day of travel into just a few peaceful hours. Though it no longer flies, the dream of quiet, high-speed travel continues, with new designs exploring ways to make supersonic flight even more efficient and serene. But whether an aircraft is traveling at the speed of sound or cruising gently below it, the engines that carry it are marvels of reliability. They are some of the most thoroughly tested machines on the planet, built to perform their quiet, powerful work for thousands of hours, carrying us smoothly across oceans and continents through the calm, thin air high above the world. And now, let us consider a different kind of flight, one that does not need a long runway or forward speed to begin. Let us think about the helicopter, the mechanical equivalent of a hummingbird, able to rise straight into the air, to pause, and to dance in place. Where an airplane slices through the sky, a helicopter seems to negotiate with it, hovering, pivoting, and moving in any direction it chooses. It is a form of flight that feels like it belongs in a dream, but it is all based on wonderfully clever engineering. At the heart of every helicopter is the main rotor. This is not just a spinning fan, but a set of long, graceful blades, each one shaped like a slender wing. As they sweep through the air in a wide circle, they generate lift, allowing the helicopter to ascend vertically as if being drawn upward by an invisible thread. But the true magic of a helicopter is its ability to hover, to hang suspended in one single spot in the air. This requires a constant, delicate balancing act. The pilot must make continuous, tiny adjustments to the angle of the rotor blades to counter every gentle puff of wind, every shift in air temperature. Hovering is like trying to balance on the head of a pin. It is a state of perfect, active stillness. This remarkable control is made possible by a system that allows the angle, or pitch, of each rotor blade to be changed as it spins. To move forward, the pilot can subtly increase the pitch of the blades as they sweep towards the back of the helicopter and decrease it as they move forward. This tilts the entire rotor disc, and the helicopter gently leans in the direction it wants to go. To rise straight up, the pilot increases the pitch of all the blades at once, causing them to take a deeper bite of the air. To descend, the pitch is lessened and the helicopter settles back towards the ground, as softly as a falling seed. But as the main rotor spins in one direction, the body of the helicopter naturally wants to spin in the other. This is a simple law of physics called torque. To counteract this, most helicopters have a smaller tail rotor. This quiet, sideways-facing rotor acts like a gentle rudder, providing a soft push that keeps the main body perfectly steady. It is the quiet counterbalance that allows for smooth, controlled turns. This agility is what makes helicopters so uniquely useful. They can reach places no other vehicle can. They can land on a hospital rooftop, a mountain ledge, or in a remote forest clearing no bigger than a backyard. They are used for search and rescue, for medical evacuations, and for delivering aid to places cut off from the world. They are an airborne multi-tool, a gentle machine of access and assistance. To watch a helicopter hovering in place, its blades a shimmering, transparent disc, its body perfectly still against the sky, is to forget all the complex forces at play. Beneath that poised, floating posture is a beautiful ballet of physics and human control. It is perhaps the closest thing we have built to a mechanical dragonfly, able to lift off on a whim and land with the precision of a whisper. Rockets are not subtle machines, but there is a deep and profound beauty in their purpose. Where an airplane hums through the atmosphere, a rocket is designed for a much grander journey, to leave the embrace of the Earth entirely. To reach the silent, weightless realm of space, a rocket must perform an act of incredible power. It must rise against the full pull of gravity, push through the dense layers of the atmosphere, and accelerate until the planet finally lets it go. What makes a rocket so different from a jet is that it brings everything it needs with it. A jet engine breathes in the air around it, but a rocket must carry its own breath in the form of an oxidizer. This is because where it is going, there is no air at all. A rocket engine works on that simple, elegant principle. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Inside the engine, a fuel and an oxidizer are combined, creating a continuous, powerful stream of hot, energized gas. This stream is guided through a nozzle at the bottom, and as it pushes downward, the rocket is gently but irresistibly pushed upward in response. The moment of launch is a sight of pure majesty. It begins with a deep, rumbling vibration that you can feel more than hear. Then, a pillar of bright, warm light appears at the base, and the rocket begins its slow, steady ascent. It rises with a deliberate and unwavering purpose, a shining needle pointing toward the heavens, leaving behind a soft cloud of billowing white vapor. To break free from the Earth's gentle but persistent pull, a rocket must reach a speed known as escape velocity. It does not do this all at once. Instead, it follows a long, graceful arc, climbing upward while also moving sideways, faster and faster until it is essentially falling around the Earth rather than back down to it. To make this journey more efficient, most rockets are built in stages. The first stage, the largest and most powerful, does the heavy lifting of getting the rocket off the ground and through the thickest part of the atmosphere. Once its fuel is spent, it gently separates and falls away, having completed its part of the journey. This allows the rest of the rocket, now much lighter, to continue its climb. It is like a traveler shedding a heavy coat as they ascend a mountain. With each stage that falls away, the rocket becomes lighter, faster, and more graceful as it moves toward the quiet of space. In recent years, we have even taught these rocket stages how to return home. Instead of being discarded, some are now designed to guide themselves back through the atmosphere and land softly on their own, standing upright, ready to begin another journey. It is a beautiful dance of engineering and precision. There is something deeply poetic about a rocket's flight. These immense machines carry our greatest curiosities into the void. They carry telescopes that look back to the dawn of time, robotic explorers destined for other worlds, and sometimes they carry people. They turn the sky from a ceiling into a gateway. And when you watch a rocket rising through the clouds, a steady point of light against the deep blue, it is hard not to feel a sense of wonder. It is a machine built on a simple idea. If you push hard enough in one direction, you can go anywhere. And its journey, which begins with such deep and powerful sound, is ultimately a journey toward the most profound and perfect silence. Once a rocket has completed its powerful ascent, it delivers its precious cargo into the silent, peaceful realm of orbit. Orbit is a state of perfect, weightless balance. It is not flying in the way we think of it. It is more like a continuous, effortless fall. Imagine you could throw a stone so fast that as it began to fall, the Earth's surface would curve away beneath it at the very same rate. The stone would keep falling and falling, but it would never actually reach the ground. It would simply circle the planet forever. That is what it means to be in orbit. You are in a perpetual, silent dance with gravity. Up there, in the vacuum of space, there is no air to slow you down. Once a spacecraft reaches orbital velocity, it can turn off its engines and simply coast, drifting along its curved path around the world. The International Space Station does this, circling the entire planet once every 90 minutes, its inhabitants floating in a state of serene weightlessness. But a journey into space must eventually have a return, and getting back down safely is its own kind of art. The journey home is called re-entry, and it is a carefully managed descent through the atmosphere. A returning spacecraft approaches the top of the atmosphere at incredible speeds. As it begins to greet the thin outer layers of air, it compresses the air in front of it. This rapid compression creates an immense amount of heat, and for a few moments, the spacecraft is enveloped in a glowing shield of superheated plasma. From the outside, it looks like a man-made meteor, a shooting star with a fiery tail. But from the inside, it is a controlled and protected passage. To survive this intense heat, spacecraft are equipped with heat shields. These shields are made of special materials that are designed to absorb and gracefully shed the thermal energy. Often, the shield is ablative, which means its outer layers are designed to vaporize, carrying the heat away with them in a glowing ethereal wake. It is like sacrificing a thin outer veil to protect the precious core within. The shape of the spacecraft, often a blunt, rounded capsule, also helps to spread the heat and use the atmosphere's resistance as a gentle brake. The angle of re-entry must be perfect. Too steep, and the forces would be too great. Too shallow, and the spacecraft might skip off the top of the atmosphere, like a stone on water. The guidance systems make millions of tiny calculations, ensuring the path is true. Once the spacecraft has passed through the hottest part of its descent and has slowed considerably, large parachutes bloom open high in the sky. These parachutes catch the air, slowing the final fall until the capsule is descending as gently as a feather. The journey ends with a soft splashdown in the ocean or a whisper-light touchdown on land. It is the final, quiet moment of a grand adventure. To orbit is to float on the knife's edge between falling and flying. To re-enter is to come home through a temporary self-made sunrise. To be cradled by the very air you sought to leave until you are safely back on the ground, the journey complete. If you have ever watched a hummingbird hovering in midair or seen a maple seed spin to the ground like a tiny silent helicopter, you have witnessed nature's original flight engineers at work. Long before we ever sketched our first flying machine, the natural world had already perfected an astonishing variety of ways to conquer the air. It is no surprise, then, that engineers and scientists have increasingly turned to the quiet wisdom of nature for inspiration. This process, known as biomimicry, is all about learning from the elegant solutions that evolution has spent millions of years refining. The classic example, of course, is the bird. We first learned the shape of the wing by studying them, but now the imitation has become far more sophisticated. We are not just copying the shape of a wing, but studying the flexibility of a single feather, the way a bird's muscles sense and respond to a sudden gust of wind. Some of the most cutting-edge research involves creating small, flapping wing robots called ornithopters. These delicate machines do not just glide, they flap their wings like an insect or a hummingbird. The goal is to create a machine with the same incredible agility, able to maneuver through tight spaces, to hover, and to dart with a silent precision. Insects, especially, have become wonderful teachers. Their wings are flexible and can produce lift in ways that traditional aerodynamics cannot easily explain. Tiny drones are now being developed that mimic the flight of a bee or a dragonfly, designed to be lightweight, energy efficient, and able to navigate complex spaces, just like their biological counterparts. Nature's inspiration also comes from places we might not expect, from seeds, for example. The seed of a maple tree doesn't have an engine, but it is a master of flight. It twirls to the ground in a perfect spiral, a motion that slows its descent and allows the wind to carry it far from its parent tree. Engineers are using this simple, elegant design to create passive gliding devices that can deliver small, important things without needing any power at all, just a gentle release into the air. One of the most fascinating areas of research is in the development of morphing wings, structures that can change their shape during flight. Birds do this naturally. They fold their wings during a dive, spread them wide to glide, and adjust individual feathers for subtle corrections. Researchers are now experimenting with new materials that would allow an aircraft's wing to bend and twist to become more efficient for every phase of its journey. We are even learning from the silence of the owl. An owl's flight is nearly soundless thanks to special serrated edges on its feathers that break up the turbulence of the air. This allows it to drift through the forest like a ghost. Engineers hope to one day bring this quietness to our own aircraft, making the skies a more peaceful place. Biomimicry reminds us that nature is the ultimate innovator. It has already solved countless engineering problems, not with brute force, but with patience, adaptation, and optimization over immense stretches of time. A bird does not have the power of a jet engine, but it doesn't need to. It is efficient, lightweight, and exquisitely tuned to its environment. And so, we continue to watch and to listen. We listen to the rustle of wings, the buzz of bees, and the silent spiral of a falling seed. For in these ancient, perfected designs, there is a whole world of gentle inspiration waiting to lift us to new and quieter heights. Flight is one of evolution's greatest and most beautiful stories. It is a breathtaking and improbable solution to the challenge of moving through the world. What makes it even more impressive is that it did not just happen once. Life, in its immense creativity, has evolved the ability to fly at least 4 separate times, completely independently. It is nature's way of showing us that some ideas are so good, they are worth discovering again and again. Let us drift back in time to the quiet of the ancient world to witness these beginnings. The very first creatures to take to the skies were the insects, over 300 million years ago. This was a time before the dinosaurs, even before the first flowers bloomed. The world was a place of misty, swampy forests, and into this stillness, insects invented flight. Early dragonflies with delicate, glassy wingspans of over 2 feet drifted through the Carboniferous air. Their wings seem to have evolved from scratch, a brand new idea, allowing them to become the undisputed rulers of the prehistoric skies. Many millions of years passed, and then a new flyer emerged, the pterosaur. These were not dinosaurs, but their close relatives, and they were the first vertebrates to achieve powered flight. Their wings were vast membranes of skin, stretched from an elongated fourth finger all the way to their ankles, forming a kind of leathery sail. Some were as small as sparrows, while others had wingspans that rivaled a small modern aircraft, allowing them to soar for immense distances over the ancient Mesozoic seas. While the pterosaurs ruled the skies, another story was quietly beginning. From a line of small feathered dinosaurs, the first birds began to emerge. The feathers that covered their bodies did not originally evolve for flight. They were likely for warmth or for display. But evolution, the patient artist, is a master of repurposing what is already there. These feathers, once used for insulation, proved to be perfect for shaping the air, for creating lift, and for guiding a gentle glide from a tree. Creatures like Archaeopteryx were a beautiful bridge between two worlds, part dinosaur, part bird, with claws on its wings and a long bony tail, a creature learning the new language of the air. Over time, their bones became hollow and light, their bodies more streamlined, and their flight more powerful and precise. And finally, long after the dinosaurs and pterosaurs had vanished, evolution invented flight one more time. The bats appeared, the latecomers to the party, but they came with their own clever idea. They are the only mammals to evolve true powered flight, and they did it by transforming their own hands. Their wings are formed by a thin membrane of skin stretched over 5 incredibly long fingers, creating a flexible, agile surface that allows them to dance through the night sky. And they perfected this flight by learning to see with sound, navigating the darkness with echolocation. 4 times, nature began the journey anew. Insects with their glassy, veined wings, pterosaurs with their vast, leathery sails, birds with their bodies remade around the miracle of the feather, and bats with hands that learned to swim through the air. Each time, the challenges were immense, but the rewards were even greater. Access to new food, escape from predators, and the freedom to explore the world from a new perspective. Each of these flying creatures, past and present, is a testament to the patient, creative, and endlessly inventive power of life. Their story reminds us that the dream of flight is not just a human one. It is a dream woven into the very fabric of our world. The skies of tomorrow may not look entirely like a science fiction movie, but they are on their way to becoming quieter, cleaner, and in many ways more thoughtful. After more than a century of powerful engines and rumbling runways, flight is entering a new era, one of a gentler, more sustainable harmony. Let us start with the idea of electric aviation. For years, electric motors have been quietly transforming our roads, and now they are beginning to lift into the sky. The idea is simple and elegant: to replace combustion engines with quiet electric motors and to swap jet fuel for the silent power of batteries. This shift promises a future of much quieter skies, with aircraft that hum rather than roar. Imagine airports where the loudest sound is the wind itself. The main challenge we are patiently solving is making batteries that are light enough for long journeys, but progress is happening every day. For shorter, regional flights, electric planes may one day become the peaceful, gentle norm. Then there is the dream of personal vertical flight. A new class of vehicles is emerging, known as eVTOLs. You might think of them as quiet skypods or personal air vehicles. They look a bit like large, graceful drones with multiple rotors that allow them to rise vertically like a bubble and then drift silently across a city. The idea is to create a network of these quiet, efficient vehicles that can bypass traffic below, carrying a few passengers from rooftop to rooftop. It is a vision of a future with less noise, less congestion, and a more peaceful way to move through our world. Autonomous drones are another piece of this future puzzle. Their potential goes far beyond photography. Imagine a small, silent drone delivering medicine to a remote village, or quietly watching over fields of crops, ensuring they have enough water. They are being developed as silent helpers, able to assess damage after a storm or find people lost in the wilderness, all without putting a pilot at risk. And in space, the future is about sustainability. The era of reusable rockets that can return to Earth, land softly, and prepare for another gentle journey is already here. This innovation is making space more accessible, but also more responsible. But perhaps the most important trend in the future of flight is the focus on its climate impact. The goal is clear: to fly farther and faster, but to leave less of a trace behind. Whether through electric propulsion, sustainable aviation fuels, or entirely new engine designs, the future of flight is one that seeks to be in greater harmony with our planet. All of these advancements will arrive slowly, carefully, and thoughtfully, but the direction is clear. The future of flight looks full of possibility, a slow, steady unfolding of what comes next. And while tomorrow's aircraft may hum instead of roar, or hover instead of roll, the spirit will remain the same. It is about lifting off, looking ahead, and trusting that with each new, gentle idea, we will find new ways to touch the sky. Even after all this time, we still look up. We still pause at the sound of wings overhead. We still crane our necks to follow the silver arc of a distant airplane. We still marvel at the quiet hush of a bird gliding on a breeze. Flight continues to captivate us, not because we have mastered it, but because it keeps reminding us how big the sky is and how much there is to wonder about. From the first flapping wings of ancient insects to the deep hum of a jet engine, flight has always been more than just a way to get from place to place. It is a symbol, a dream, a quiet yearning written into our imaginations. The sky, after all, does not belong to any one creature or country. It has been shared across time by dragonflies and swifts, by migrating geese and human astronauts. It is open, infinite, and deeply humbling, and it invites us to imagine what else might be possible. We fly because we are curious, but we also fly because it brings us closer to something we cannot quite name. Freedom, perhaps, or perspective, or the strange, still thrill of being suspended between the earth and the stars. And so, here at the end of our journey through the science of flight, from birds to rockets, from flapping wings to reusable boosters, we return to where we began, to the simple, peaceful act of looking up. I wonder where you are listening from tonight. Is your sky filled with stars, or is the soft light of dawn just beginning to appear on the horizon? Maybe you are winding down from a busy day or lying in bed, letting your thoughts drift upward like a leaf caught in a gentle breeze. Wherever you are, whatever the hour, thank you for spending this quiet time with me. If you have enjoyed this gentle journey through the skies, I would be so grateful if you would leave a like or subscribe to the Midnight Scientists for more explorations like this one. And if you feel inclined, you can let me know in the comments where you are listening from. I always love to imagine this peaceful community resting under skies all around the world. And now, if you are still awake, gently drifting, I hope the wonder of flight, its history, its science, its quiet beauty, has left a soft and peaceful imprint on your imagination. Whether you dream of gliding through clouds, soaring over oceans, or simply watching the horizon tilt as wings catch the wind, may your sleep tonight carry you somewhere light and peaceful and boundless. As always, this video is for entertainment and relaxation only and is not intended as medical advice. Thank you for listening, and until next time, sleep well.